underrepresented. Where isolation, humiliation and degradation are facts of life. Welcome to prison.
It depends who's telling the story, I suppose. The prisoners would have one view. The people who work in the prison system would have another. And I think it's up to people to decide where the truth is.
Give government propaganda and the media spin doctors the flick. And check out Doin' Time for news, views and tunes on prison issues from Guantanamo Bay to Christmas Island to prisons and detention centres everywhere. Every Monday at 4 p.m. on your community radio 3CR.
We are still fired up and we're still talking about revolution.
Hello and welcome to the Doing Time Show. This is 3CR Community Radio 855 AM on your dial or streaming www.3cr.org.au. Today's show is a special broadcast following up from Mayday. Mayday is very important. It celebrates and is in solidarity with workers and unions. First up on the show, we have Sam Watson, a First Nation activist from Queensland, who will talk about unions and what the day means to him. Then we will speak to Dave Kerrin, who is a unionist and an activist. Dave will be talking about Mayday, protesters who have been arrested on Mayday and possibly imprisonment. Dave himself was arrested. He will give a general outline and a list of his charges, we think, to give a court update. Hi Sam, welcome to the program. Can you tell us...
G'day, how you doing?
Not bad, how are you?
Good.
Can you tell us about what Mayday means to you?
Mayday's always been an important part of our cultural calendar. I started marching back in the 50s and 60s with uncles and aunties who were proud members of the unions, and we used to march from the city down to the exhibition grounds. And this is right through the Joe Bjelke-Peterson years. And we were all up together in the sort of the so-called red contingent at the back. And in the red contingent, there used to be the black fellas and the gays and lesbians and trannies and socialists and communists and God knows what. So the ragtag revolutionary bunch. And we were all lumped at the back there, and we sort of had the most colourful and noisiest little group in the march, I think. And then we marched through to the exhibition grounds, and we all had a great time down there. And then from the exhibition grounds, we'd wander back through the different unions. We'd go to the Communist Party headquarters at the Valley, and then from the Valley down to the Wolfies Club down at end of Adelaide Street. So there's always plenty of happening, and it's just good to sort of reconnect with a lot of people and reconfirm the solidarity.
Yeah.
It's always important.
Yep. Can you tell us what land you're from?
Yeah, Brisbane mob. Our country's down towards the border of the Logan and Albert Rivers. Wanjabara people. Our language group are the Yugambeh people, and through bloodlines we're connected to the Jagera and Yagara people of the Brisbane area. So, but I've got family up on Cherbourg, Warrabinda, up around Mount Isa, Calcadine country, and up on the Cape, around the Wick people, and of course big mob of family on Palm Island. So the family right across Queensland.
Wow. Could you talk about the stolen wages?
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, from the beginning, in the 1800s and 1900s, the various colonies moved towards statehood, and one of the first sort of administrative decisions they made were relating to Aboriginal people. So they passed these so-called Protectionist Acts across the 5 states in the Northern Territory, and these acts placed every single Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander person under the direct control of the state protectors, and the acts and the regulations determined exactly where Indigenous people lived, who we worked for, how much we were paid, and when we did get jobs, the wages of these jobs were paid into state government administered funds. So here in Queensland it's called the Public Administration Fund, and our wages were held in trust by the state protector. So our people were paid some pocket money every week or every fortnight, because I used to walk my uncles and aunties across to Native Affairs, which is in George Street, and because a lot of my uncles and aunties couldn't even know how to write, very tragically, and used to have to make their marks on the and they'd receive a small handful of change, and that'd be the pocket money, and that'd be deducted from their account that is administered by the protector. So over the decades, I mean, our people, our family members owned land, they owned houses, they owned vehicles, but under the state acts, under the state laws, they weren't allowed to actually own in their own right, in their own known assets in excess of market value of over £100. So the state protector made all the decisions on our behalf, and of course when public projects were required funding, then the state government of the day would just raid the Stolen Wages Fund. I mean, we didn't know for sure that the Maryborough Hospital was built from Stolen Wages money. The Redcliffe Hospital was built through Stolen Wages money, and there's a large number of roads and arterial roads and highways around South East Queensland that were built out of Stolen Wages money. So people of Queensland got great value out of our money.
Mm. So, could you talk about the history of unions and in regards of First Nation protests?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the trade union movement at the beginning, of course, back in the 1800s, early 1900s, there was a sort of a tension between the trade union sector and the Aboriginal people, because the trade union sector were always agitating for the rights of workers and the rights of so-called white workers, as opposed to the rights of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So they always saw that their first priority is for their white members. But moving forward into the 40s, 50s and 60s, after the Second World War, when there's large numbers of Indigenous people moving into the cities and moving into different parts of the job market, there were also more enlightened leaderships emerging within the trade union movement, and definitely across the 50s and 60s, the trade union leadership took up the struggle for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to be paid equal wages. So there's a raft of actions taken through the industrial relations system in the Northern Territory that gave to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander workers the rights to be paid equal wages. But of course, what white employers did then, rather than pay black workers their rights, and rather than pay black workers the equal wages they are entitled to, white employers would just sack them and remove them from their traditional homeland. So that's how the so-called 73 discrete communities across the Northern Territory, that's where they come from. They come from Aboriginal people who were forcibly removed from their own traditional lands because white employers just refused to pay the equal wages the courts had determined they were entitled to. So right across Australia, every jurisdiction we fought through the 1960s, 1970s, the 1980s to have average Torres Strait Islander people paid their due rights, their equal wages. But in a number of situations, Aboriginal workers were just sacked and removed from the job place. So it was never an easy struggle, because a lot of our people just had to, keep their mouths shut and take the loose change that was still paid by the white bosses.
Yeah, there was a big protest, wasn't there? Sit-in or something on a tube station years ago.
Yeah. So, when we first set up the Brisbane Aboriginal Legal Service and then extended that legal service right throughout Queensland, we found that the first big actions we were involved in through the early 1970s, those actions were actions in the industrial relations system, agitating for the rights of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander workers. So we still had workers in the early 70s and mid-70s being paid in rations. So the white workers would go to the front door and they'd be paid cash money and sign their paperwork. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander workers had to go to the back door with the sugar bags, and they'd be paid in rations.
Really?
There's a famous song from the Gurindji struggle in the mid-1960s where Aboriginal workers on the cattle stations around the territory were paid in flour, sugar and tea. And like I know Ted Egan worked with the Aboriginal people up there to pen that song, the Gurindji Blues. A little bit flour, a little bit sugar, a little bit tea. So they told of the Gurindji struggle for the equal business and access to traditional lands.
Yeah. I was talking about David Namugira, isn't it, as well, before?
Yeah, he was given full citizenship rights, but in the 1950s. But then when he actually purchased some alcohol for his relatives, he was charged under the respective ordinances and placed into jail for simply doing what was seen as being culturally right, which was sharing something that he'd purchased at the shop with his own people. So this is where the two cultures clash. So David Namugira, one of the greatest artists Australia's ever produced, charged and convicted of an offence because he was an Aboriginal person, and by law he was not entitled to drink alcohol.
Yeah, it's funny. It's an entitlement to drink alcohol. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, even through today, there's still on Aboriginal communities across Queensland, there's still alcohol restriction laws. We were out on Palm Island to do family business a few weeks back, and everyone still gets searched by cops getting on the barge and then getting off the barge over on Palm. So we're still as though it's back in the 60s, mate.
Yeah, is that like legal? The law to do that, to search people for alcohol?
Yeah, they suspended the 1965 Racial Discrimination Act in order to enforce those laws, so that it's a dry community. So Aboriginal people can't bring alcohol onto Palm Island.
Well, thanks for that, Sam. I've got another interview coming up in a while.
Okay.
Soon.
Don't worry.
Nice
Everyone have a great May Day.
Thank you very much.
Okay, mate.
Right, bye.
Thanks. Solidarity. Well done.
Thanks.
This is Irene Bolger, former Secretary of the Nurses Federation in Victoria. Throughout the nurses dispute in 1986 and the waterfront dispute in 1998, 3CR was always there, broadcasting the voices of workers in struggle.
You're listening to 3CR Community Radio, and we're broadcasting live from the Beta Chicken Strike here in Melbourne.
We've just seen all of the thousands of nurses walk through to their meeting, and people from different unions showing their solidarity.
3CR, radio for the workers, by the workers, since 1976.
Hello, Dave. How are you? Welcome to the program. Can you tell us about what Mayday means to you?
Yeah, Mayday's it's the day that around the world working people celebrate. We celebrate our lives, the fact that we're the makers and the fabricators of everything that's good. We're also forced at times to work in industries that destroy the planet or take us to war, and so we've got to organise in those areas. But primarily, the Mayday is that day where we say the economy ought to be a democratic space, and so that around questions like destruction of the planet and its life support systems or war, that the working people should have the primary say in that, because we are the vast majority.
Yeah. Can you tell us about some protests that have been going on, and talk about any arrests and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, we sort of, I guess what we're seeing more and more, especially in the union space, is the move against the most basic forms of solidarity. And whereas they're not very often arresting people, what they are doing is that they are using laws that apply to unions but don't apply to the employer, and suing and fining unions in the attempt to corral them, to tame them. So, that's been going on for many, many years, and without going into too much detail in the minutes we've got, it started in 1977 when they moved in what are called the secondary boycott laws, which outlaws solidarity between unions and within unions.
Really?
And from that time onwards, unions have we've tried to duck and weave our way around the laws, because remember, those laws don't apply to the employer. They apply to us. So we're not allowed to set the price and the conditions of sale for the labour we sell across a whole industry, whereas the employer is. We're not allowed to hit a second or a third company in a dispute, whereas the employer is allowed to bring in a secondary workforce, what we would call scabs, and thereby carry out a secondary boycott against us. So at every step and stage along the way, you see us as citizens of this country unequal before the law, and that has to change. And so because of those unequal laws, unions, when they have to try to duck and weave to get around the laws, we look fraudulent, we look shifty, we look like we're up to something, and then they go ahead and they take us through the courts and they fine the unions. And like for instance, if you look at the Victoria market, if the unions came out and said the Victoria market is now a green ban, and we want the rights of the stallholders and traders met, and no work's going to proceed until that happens. That's now illegal in our country, and the unions would be fined hundreds of thousands of dollars a day, and the individual organisers would be sued per day as well. That's the degree to which the democracy's been subverted since 1977. So what they've done, in 1977 they outlawed solidarity. In 1996 they corralled us even tighter and said you can only show solidarity inside the workplace. Now they're saying individuals cannot show solidarity, and that if you do, they're calling it conspiracy. So that's the sort of legal position we've reached now, and it's a very dangerous space for this country to be in.
Yeah, is it like sort of, there's strike laws too, isn't there?
Yeah, well that's right, and that's exactly what those laws are. It's taken away the right to strike, which is really the outcome of solidarity in the worst case scenario is always the strike. So, but if they're saying that strikes under the majority of situations, strikes are illegal, well, if you go back in time and you look at the things we've won, the paid apprenticeships, the weekend, superannuation, all of those things, without if we were fighting those campaigns now, it'd be illegal.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, that's a very it shows you over the last 4 decades we have stepped back in the corner with our hands around our head, hoping we're not going to be knocked right out. We're down now to 9% density of the Australian working people.
Yep.
So that strategy of trying to duck and weave around these bad laws hasn't worked. So the union movement's now saying, let's change the rules. And I think that's a really good thing. And if Labor gets in, well, we've got to hold them to that.
That's it, yeah.
You know, because the thing about it is, the way I see it is this. Look, at the moment, in real terms, Australia, the day-to-day Australia, when that election happens in a few weeks' time, people are either going to vote on the progressive side, for want of a better term. People are going to vote Labor, Greens or Socialist.
Mm.
Now, that really, from the point of view of the union movement, isn't the question for us. The question for us is, what are our policies? What, as a movement, are we going to do about the situation where multinational companies and the shareholders have more rights than citizens? What are we going to do about that? Because governments are limited in what they can do, unless they want a revolution, and none of them are putting that forward at the moment. Then the reality of it is, we as a movement have to come up for an answer for that. We've got to make sure that citizens in this country have more rights, and we should determine the companies, the corporations that come to this country and the conditions under which they operate. And the first condition must be, at law, their decisions must be carried out in the best interests of the citizens of this country first, not their shareholders.
Yeah, and also just going back, I wouldn't say Liberal Party, because it's not just them. They're scaring away they're putting accusations against the unions that are false, sort of to make people scared and vote for them, sort of thing.
Absolutely. Well, a recent case in point was the trial of John Setker and Sean Reardon of blackmail charges. Now, I was in the court most days for that hearing, and if Australians were in that court and they had heard what went down, they'd have been blown away. I mean, the level of the conspiracy, the emails that were going between the Victorian Liberals at the time who were in government, between them, Abbott, the companies involved, conspiring. If you want to talk about conspiracies, they were conspiring to try and make Johnny and Sean look like they were guilty of blackmail. And lawyers were writing up witness statements for witnesses. Some of the statements were changed 19 and 20 times. So in the end, it was that embarrassing for the prosecution that they had to drop the charges.
Yeah.
Now, when you see things like that actually occurring and you work out who benefits by things like that, then it doesn't take long to put two and two together.
Yeah, and the wages are going down and everything's going up. And the Liberal Party saying, it's not. But it's a big lie.
Yeah, definitely is. And the reality for the share that working people have of the wealth we create is getting less and less, and the share that corporations are getting, and the capital is getting, is becoming greater and greater. And, the reality of it is, the reason for that isn't just because you've got a pack of greedy so-and-sos in the capitalist class. The reason is that they are in a deep systemic crisis, and they literally can't afford capitalism as we used to know it. And that's what we're actually going through. That's the period we're living through now. I mean, if you took away the current wars, there'd be an economic depression. Capitalism would collapse. Now, what a travesty that is. That means we're locked into permanent war, the killing of our brothers and sisters all around the world, in order to continue being able to afford cheap T-shirts. Well, I reckon there's a better way for us, surely, than that,
Yeah. So, do you know, you've been in, the union yourself for a long time, have you?
Yeah.
So you've been into a bit of trouble?
Well, I've sort of... no, that's all right. I've been... Well, it's a good way to put it. I guess it's just, it's out there and it's real. I mean, if lucky is the right word, I've been a lucky man in my active life. In the 1970s, I was involved in the 1974 deregistration of the Builders Labourers Federation and all of the internal strife inside unions about that. In 1986, I was involved in the deregistration that did nearly kill us off, and that went on from 86 to the early 90s.
It's at the BLF.
Yeah. And let's just recall a few things about that. Like our union stood outside the Hawke-Keating Accords. We wouldn't go along with the privatisations. We rejected casualisation. We rejected the whole neoliberal rollout, basically. And for that, our union was deregistered and derecognised and carved up amongst Yellow Union. So So, you know, I was lucky I was involved in that. I learned a lot through that experience. And then in the into the 2000s then, I was one of the people who set up Union Solidarity, and we fought from the end of 2004 till, end of 2008, beginning of 2009, the Howard Laws. And so when you talk about those anti-solidarity laws that came in 77, well, what we used to do was just, go out and break those laws. So we would hit every employer in the dispute, and thereby we would, help workers to win the disputes. So it wasn't rocket science, but it exposed the reasons why they brought in 45D&E, those anti-solidarity laws, because, of course, solidarity works, and they wanted to knock that on the head legally. So, I've been very lucky to have, been around, I guess, those opportunities for working people to practice and learn, and then with Earthworker, also very lucky, because Earthworker, its roots went right back to the 70s again, where the Builders Labourers Federation and other building unions ran campaigns like the Bluey's Boots and Overalls campaign. Now, when we ran that campaign, the Bluey Company in Tasmania was nearly broke. Because of our campaign nationally, it became a multinational. So now we didn't intend that. It was an unintended consequence. But what we learnt was that if we use our weight as workers in a different way, we can cause things to happen in the economy that otherwise wouldn't occur. So that was a big learning experience for us. The green bands, of course, the Earthworker has its roots in the green bands, and that's that whole question about workers and economic democracy. Do we have the right as workers to make decisions about what happens on the job, whether it happens, where it happens, how it happens? We maintain, yes, that the next evolution within the democratic process is towards the economy. So I've been very lucky to have been around all that with other comrades, and learned heaps, still learning, and close to 70. That means I am a very lucky man.
I remember seeing Sally McManus. I'm with United Voice, and one of the members said, "Oh, Peter, do you want to go for a dinner?" United Voice said, "Oh, why not? Free food, and see someone from the National Secretary of ACTU or something." And it was really cool. And she said the same thing, that break the laws, basically. And that'll change them.
I think Sally McManus is really onto something there, and I think. Her and Michelle O'Neill, her president, that those two women in pushing forward this Change the Rules campaign and in their determination to keep it going, regardless of who is in government, I think that is a point of unity that, your left wing, right wing, chicken wing, we can all agree on and all come together around and support. So I think it's really valuable leadership. And I'm looking forward to that Change the Rules thing picking up on the secondary boycott, the anti-solidarity laws a bit more. But I'm very excited by all of that. And the last rally a few weeks ago was magnificent.
Yeah, it was.
So, all power to their elbow.
Yeah, it was a big week. Busy weekend, sorry.
Yeah.
All that week. We went down to Frankston and stirred up one of the members there because he didn't want to come to this meeting down in the peninsula. Like, we invited him so many times that just ignored us.
Yeah, right.
And we just stood picketed in front of there for a little bit.
Yeah, right. Good.
And then we had a bit of a big meeting down there with mainly some economic person and two workers and some other politician.
Yeah, right.
It was pretty good.
Yeah. So, and what were the main issues that came out of that?
Oh, just mainly people's raise the wages.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah.
Some security guard said that some people, they said, "Oh, why don't you do an?" There was a problem at the work site, and he said, "Oh, why don't you just go on strike or take action?" And he said, "Well, no one wants to join the union in my workplace because of fear of joining the union."
Yeah, that's right. No, well, that's the other thing, with a casualised economy and sham contracting and all those other arm's length forms of employment. The first thing that happens is you're dead right. I mean, people get frightened and they worry that if they put their head out there on the chopping block, it'll get lopped off. So
yeah,
I think rebuilding from here is important, and I think that means we've got to step outside the laws and become and remember who and what we are. All we are is the democratic fist of the working people. We're not there to own buildings or cars or properties or have investments, or we're there for that one purpose, to increase the democratic rights of workers within the economy.
Yeah, that's true. So, what else have you got? Have you got anything else to say yourself? Or?
Oh, God, I could talk under wet concrete, That's funny. No, look, I mean, one of the most exciting things I think going on at the moment, and a real opportunity for unions to rebuild and grow, is the response by people, and especially the young, around the climate emergency. I think that EBA unionism simply can't. It doesn't have an answer for climate emergency. Earthworker, as you probably know, we've got some ideas about how we can use enterprise bargaining agreements to assist the planet to heal and create workers' jobs. But in the end, it's going to take a different sort of organising. So what we're doing is trying to popularise this idea about organising for ownership. Yeah. So we move beyond the enterprise into the overall economy and look at the way, similar to the old Bluey's Boots and Overalls campaign with the Bluey coat in Tassie, there needs to be a sector of the economy that the people own and control democratically, and that is flexible enough to deal with our real problems around climate emergency. Now, that is doable. That work has begun. And we've got to now increase the level of intensity of uptake of those ideas if we are to deal with climate emergency.
Do you mean like getting co-ops together and stuff?
Co-ops, I think, are crucial. Yeah, crucial to that. Where we say, well, all right. I mean, capitalism is organised in such a way where its investments are in fossil fuel, petrochem, plastics, and military. I mean, they're the big four, and they are also the planet stuffers. So we've got to not just march in the street saying that industries like that shouldn't exist. We've also got to have a big yes over here on the left, where we're creating the new jobs, where we're creating the alternatives that people can feel, see, touch. That's the thing. Rather than just be right, we've often been right and lost. We've got to be right and win, and that means we've got to show that working people can own and control sectors of the economy and major sectors of the economy, and make that sector of the economy work in the interests of everybody.
Yeah, it's happening too, isn't it? Here in Melbourne.
It is.
And it's a bit slow compared to European and America. Yep. Like there's co-ops everywhere in America and Europe.
Yeah, it's interesting in the campaign though, because like Earthworker, that's been going 22 years now. 22 years of people sorting out where they stand on it, and is it a good idea? Is it even possible that unions be involved in this? All that sort of stuff. Is there a conflict of interest for unions? All these questions have been coming up for 22 years, and we're still going through that. But my experience of campaigns is, that you reach a tipping point, and then things can begin to happen on a bigger scale and more rapidly. And I think Mother Nature is about to hit us with a few tipping points.
Yeah, true.
And if we don't have available pathways to go down, then, we better get real good at yoga and learn how to bend over and kiss our ass goodbye. Because I think that's what Earthworker is all about. It's trying to provide the modelling.
Yeah.
It's not saying that the few of us who, rusted on old reg like me hold the answers. The people hold the answers, but we can at least provide the modelling for the people, and I think that's what Earthworker is all about.
Yeah, I was thinking about like you talked about the BLF and stuff. And I can't remember what protest it was, but we were on this big protest. I think it was like land rights or something, and then all of a sudden BLF came around the corner and our contingent was small, and then poof, giant. They need to really support protests a lot.
That's right, and doesn't that make the difference? And, I remember the AMWU, and Craig Johnson was the secretary, and there were, again, like you can't even remember the blue now, but I was there. And then all of a sudden, there was a bloody couple of thousand AMWU turned up with Craig at the front, and a bloody container turns up and gets welded onto the gate, and you just knew that the working people were there, and we won. So that's the sort of union movement we will win back if we're going to deal with climate emergency. We have to have an empowered union movement, a free union movement. We've got free capital. We have to have free labour. It has to be a free movement, and it's not at the moment because the laws apply unequally to unions as distinct from the employer. But, we can win those things back. Our forebears have done it. It can be done again.
Yeah. Well, I might just finish that up now.
Good-o.
Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon sometime.
Sweet. Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Hi, my name is Lex Wharton, and I listen to 3CR, and I hope you do too. I hope that you could support 3CR in its radiothon, because 3CR supports the fight for communities and support in all areas of struggles. So please listen to 3CR.
That was Angus Gill staring out of the back of a car. I think that was a song Sam Watson was talking about. I'm not too sure, but it's a nice song. It was about Stolen Generation. All right, we'll just go to a cart now.
In December 2017, Tanya Day, proud Yorta Yorta woman and much-loved member of the Aboriginal community, was travelling by train to Melbourne. When V-Line staff found her asleep, they called Castlemaine Police, and she was removed from the train and charged with public drunkenness. Tanya died 17 days later as a result of head injuries sustained while in custody. This would never have happened had the recommendations of the 2001 Royal Commission into Aboriginal deaths in custody been implemented. Tanya Day's family is calling for the crime of public drunkenness to be abolished and for the implementation of genuine community health alternatives to incarceration. Please add your support by signing the petition at 3CR Reception, 21 Smith Street, Fitzroy, or online by entering Tanya Day Petition into your browser.